Stanislav glanced at Ethan, an American immortal who was around 300 years younger than his own 437 years. Ethan's eyes were wide as he took in the men and machines in front of them. A new vampire army had arisen, one more skilled and armed with the only sedative known to affect immortals and vampires, an army aided by an immortal betrayer they had yet to identify. But the immortal guardians had finally located the new vampire army's base and discovered, much to their astonishment, that the betrayer had given the vampiric virus and the sedative to a huge mercenary group that had already begun infecting their own men. No wonder the damned vampires he and his brethren had been encountering recently were so skilled in battle. An army of men with super speed, super strength, perfect night vision, and accelerated healing abilities that left them nearly unstoppable on the battlefield would bring the mercenary group billions of dollars. And all evidence suggested this group didn't care who hired their vampire army. They would make it available to the highest bidder worldwide. Vampire mercenaries. Stanislav shook his head. After hunting and slaying psychotic vampires every night for centuries, anything new, particularly if it offered a challenge, he usually embraced with eagerness, happy to escape the same old. But this would irrevocably change the world in dangerous ways. It had to be stopped. They had to be stopped. Stanislav followed Ethan's gaze, and it sure as hell looked as though he and his brethren would stop them today. Chris Rorden, head of the East Coast division of the human network that aided immortal guardians, had chosen the rendezvous point for immortals, their seconds, and the humans he commanded, a dense forest several miles distant from the mercenary compound, well beyond the site of the compound's surveillance equipment, and far from any isolated country homes that might produce curiosity seekers. It also bore a heavy enough canopy to protect the immortal warriors from the sunlight that gleamed above them. Since half the mercenaries they would be fighting were vampire, the immortals had decided to attack in force that afternoon. Vampires couldn't withstand any sun exposure at all. Immortals could. Youngsters like Ethan, not so much. At full strength, Ethan could probably only withstand a few minutes of direct afternoon sunlight before his skin would begin to pinken with a burn, then blister, and worse. But the older the immortal was, the more daylight he or she could tolerate. Yuri, 100 years older than Stanislav, could tolerate half an hour. Stanislav could withstand 15 minutes or so, more if the sky bore a few clouds. David, who had seen thousands of years, could stand in the sun for hours, and Seth, the eldest among them and leader of the immortal guardians? As far as Stanislav knew, Seth could stand in the sun all day without suffering any ill effects. How they all envied him.